Yeah, I want to welcome everybody to this one's going to be a special show. I got a guest coming on, good friend of mine, who will share some memories with us about this gentleman. And there's a couple of reasons why I wanted to just kind of take some time out over here in order to do this. Is one, very giving individual, and two, is the fact that his attitude, his approach to life, his approach to giving, his message that he wanted to deliver, and perhaps is still being, actually, forget the perhaps, it is still being delivered. His nephews have gone on and he's taken what he began and continued to run with it. And that really is something special. So you gotta give credit to that. When people pass away, people definitely pass. The body dies, but not necessarily that message, not necessarily those fond memories. So let me take no further time over here. I want to introduce you to Mr. Wheels in Motion, Doug King. Doug, I want to thank you so much for joining us here. And it looks like we lost you right off the bat. Not sure what happened to you. So sign back in there if you can. Um, and while you're doing that, I'm going to go play a video over here, if I can, about Doug's nephews. Doug's nephews, really just unbelievable what they're doing. So let's go share screen. Let's go over here. Don Michael on Facebook. We'll go there. And tonight, they're going to be doing a special tribute. But this is the video I'd like to play.
And I got this mug that's filled with names. And whoever names I go out, catch them up. Simple as that, alright? And the winner is Lisa! Congratulations, Lisa!
We hope you enjoy your new love.
Hey guys, welcome to the late night. What the heck? Hey, Michael. When minds fail, music speaks.
All right, now we're going to be ranking Donnie Vapor's best guitar solos. We went through all of the music that we have access to and picked the best top 3 that we could find. First off, we're going to be listening to the guitar solo in
Christmas
on Mars.
It's better late than never. We ever.
It was a decent guitar solo. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. So for that reason, I'm going to give it 6 out of 10.
For my opinion, I actually really enjoyed this guitar solo, and I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10, and I think it really fits the whole Christmas vibe with the song.
We will come. La la. La la.
So, it's okay. It's more than okay. It's amazing. I I wanted to put this in first, but it's pretty much a tie with first. But I give it a 9 out of 10. It's amazing. I love It's Okay so much that I even learned how to play it on guitar.
It's Okay is a very close for second place. I agree with Blake. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. But once you hear the guitar solo in first place, you understand why It's Okay being as good as it is going in second place.
It's just a matter of time. Slip or to take.
Let me bring on Doug. Hey, Doug, those kids, man, they're unbelievable. You know,
They totally are, and they love Don so much, and it was vice versa. And to watch the kids, watch them when Don played every single time and got them involved in his music, it was just a great thing to see.
yeah. The two of them just picked up. It seems like they picked up right where you left off. So, Doug, I really want to thank you well, for a couple of things. One, coming on today, to share your thoughts, for introducing me to Donnie. Also, I remember when we met, um, and he started explaining out his story with the issue with the lungs and everything. So, again, thank you for that. But you've been an inspiration too, as to what you do, and those guys that you've been with, as continue on. So tell me, how much has Donnie, or had Donnie, really affected the way that you've approached different things?
It really has. I worked with I had a company called Wheels in Motion Consulting, and Glenn and Don were part of my company, and it was just to show different and see different perspectives on different disabilities. Glenn was a quadro. Uh, he had no usage of his arms and his legs,
Right.
and Don had a lung disease. And unfortunately, because of COVID, we lost Glenn, and then because of Don's disability, we lost him because of his lung disease. And for me, it was a very difficult thing to do because I would always pick up the phone to either one of them or both at the same time, and we would just talk about different things that are going on, with the disabled community, and just try to get a better understanding, not only about ourselves, but how we were perceived, within the able-bodied community.
Yeah, that was the one thing I did notice when we were together, and you've pointed out, John has pointed out, Glenn also, on different occasions, how that we, I'll call 'em, able-bodied, and that kind of thing, how we don't see things, or how we really should be seeing things much more so through the eyes of other people. And some of the stuff was just absolutely glaring. Really, surprised me. The one presentation that we did with Glenn, when you were talking about how you and Aaron would go to someplace, or just a recent story that you shared. You go to someplace, you ask a question, and they're responding back to her because
Yeah,
she's in a wheelchair. I mean, it's ridiculous.
believe it or not, it happened quite often. There's several restaurants, which I will not mention
No.
because I don't want them coming after me, that will seriously look at Erin, who's my wife, and say, "What does he want for dinner?" So the jokester that I am would open up the menu and I'd go, "Well, for an appetizer, I'd like you, manager, and for dessert, I'd like your job."
Hmm.
Because and then I would just simply ask the manager, "Do they do a disability etiquette training within their restaurant or that company?" And that was just another way for us to try to drum business, with the business community, and
Right.
just showing them how to deal with a person with a disability.
Yeah. No, and I'm sure the answer, well, my guess is the answer 9 times out of 10 is not. And then when Donnie traveled, he traveled with the oxygen tank. So
Yep.
it was very visible that he had some issue going on. If you may not have known what it was as an outsider just meeting him for the first time, but you definitely knew that there was something going on, within him. So I'm sure he had the same kind of issues from time to time where he's at with somebody.
When we did the Stony Brook thing that you asked us to do, I went in first, and then I had Glenn come in after me. The reason being is you want to see how the audience or the crowd is going to react towards seeing two guys in a wheelchair, and Don being the more severe, even though he's highly more educated than I am. He was an attorney, by trade, and um, just watching the crowd's reaction, and really Don getting out. I'm sorry, Glenn getting out there and doing his thing, and talking about his world and on disability, which there are some days I'm still like, oh, I, wish he was back and still doing what we're doing, but life goes on.
Yeah, no, definitely a loss with the two of those guys. Certainly, certainly without a doubt. And that speech that, folks, the speech that Doug is referring to, the three of us had an opportunity to speak to students, and a lot of, I think, a lot of those preconceived notions were broken down exactly as what you were talking about, Doug. About the restaurant. You're in a wheelchair. It doesn't mean you're not intelligent. It just means you're in a wheelchair. So if you're asking a question, you should get the response.
The
With
group,
Glenn too, Glenn, very big guy, and in his stand-up wheelchair. I mean, it was it was an absolute. You couldn't miss him coming into the
Glenn,
room,
Glenn was
without a doubt. But it doesn't mean that you can't respond and speak. Obviously, you can. Very, very intelligent guy. So are you. Don't shortchange yourself there.
no, but I'm just saying it showed three different perceptions on um, on disability life. Those two gentlemen, and I call them my brothers. Those two gentlemen uh, were able-bodied before they became disabled. Where I, on the other hand, I've been disabled 49 years. I'll be 50 in August, and I've been like this all my life. So it's interesting for me to watch to see how the audience reacts to them, as opposed to me telling, my story, that I've been born with my disability. And like I said, it just gives a different perspective.
I never thought of it like that. I just figured the two in wheelchairs, different reasons. I knew that, but they wouldn't know that. And if there would be a different perception from their point of view, or maybe it's just a different perception from your point of view.
Just
And Glenn was in a wheelchair for many, many years, so it's not like um, he's new. Look, I
yeah,
get it. Like somebody new in a wheelchair versus you've been in a wheelchair forever. There's a different attitude, I think, from the person, from the wheelchair person. Maybe not from the outside, and that's perceived on the outside. But do you get the impression that there's a difference there?
oh yes, absolutely. The people react different ways towards different people, just in like everyday life. But also, as a disabled person, you watch them see how they react to the three of us, both as a group and also as individuals, and see, how do I approach them on asking, a certain question to Glenn that may or may not uh, be something, that Glenn wants to talk about. A lot of the questions that I used to get was about stem cell research, and I don't want to go too much into it, but what would it be like, if you got stem cell research, and now all of a sudden you became a person that was able-bodied or was able to walk? And
Hmm.
I'll be honest with you, it's something I wouldn't do. because it took me 49 years to be in my world as a disabled person. I don't know if I'd be able to handle it as an able-bodied person. It's just it's a different custom than what you got to get used to. So that's why I mostly predominantly deal with people that were able-bodied now going through the disabled world and try to show them the different ins and outs on different things.
Yeah. I remember that question being asked, and I was really curious about the response that you were going to give on that one. And honestly, I was surprised about it too. But again, I was looking at it from my point of view, not your point of view. You know, you live a certain life for well, all your life in your case. And Glenn, it was pretty much because it was he wound up in the accident when he was 14, if I
Yes,
recall.
yes, that's correct.
Right. So for the most part, I mean, the two of you, this has been your life, and to I'll use the word upend it to change it. You know, where you then become full able-bodied and not have the issue. Yeah, it's a whole nother learning curve that goes along with it. So you get a comfort factor that gets tossed into the equation with you, and maybe folks on the outside just don't see that. And
Between between Glenn, Don, and myself, when a certain question is asked, we'll kind of look at each other and go, okay, which one of us wants to handle? Because we know that the answer is going to be different for each one of us. So that's why we like to give three different perspectives on the question, and then it's up to you to decide, you know, which one do you think is the answer that you're looking for.
I guess to some of that depended who we were talking to, because in that case we were talking to physical therapists, nurses, stuff like that. But then you take Donnie. So you guys, I guess, we're more the physical aspect of it. I mean, then you got Donnie. I mean, here's Donnie who's got who's got a lung disease, and it was not his doing. That was not a self-inflicted problem. It was because of where he was living that lung disease came up, and then he's out there singing, which I found to be just like wow, just absolutely amazing. Here's a guy
But
that's got a challenge with breathing, yet he's out there singing, and most of us couldn't sing to save our lives. And that is all to do with breathing properly, and being able to, emote, obviously, and, keep
uh,
note.
Erin and I were at an event for veterans, and Don went up and he sang a couple of tunes. And like I said, here's a guy with a total lung disease, and he was belting out those tunes almost better than any professional I've ever seen. And it was like, and then his wife Renee was at the next table going, "That's my husband." And then afterwards, Don and I wound up playing what we call the name game in the disabled world. Well, do you know this person? Do you know that person? And it wound up we knew a lot of the same people, just that we never met. And that's really how our friendship grew, you know, and talking about different things. And then I started to talk to Glenn and Don together about starting Wheels in Motion. And that's one of the things that they helped me, uh, get out into the community.
Yeah, which I think is a great idea. The whole concept behind Wheels in Motion, and helping businesses to really understand what they should know about. And I think a lot of it goes beyond sensitivity training, because it's some of the things that you pointed out to me were just like so basically simple once you pointed them out, but just so unseen without you telling me anything. I remember taking
Well,
you, in a wheelchair, or Donnie. I mean, he's pulling the oxygen tank. You come up on a lip, on a 1 inch lip on a curb from the street to the sidewalk. It's one thing. If that curb is 2 inches, or maybe a little bit more, even with those concrete ramps, it becomes a
yeah,
whole nother thing. And for him, maybe a little bit easier to deal with. For you, maybe a little bit harder to deal with.
yeah. So, yeah, it's just three different perspectives, and that's one of the things we like to do, and it's great to do, and time will go on, and I'm now involved in a lot of things on the governmental side. I'm on three different advisory boards, and just trying to get see everything as an even playing field for all people with disabilities. Doesn't matter what the disability is. It's just making sure that we get equal access or equal right to something as simple as voting, and making sure that the machines are, wheelchair access and so on and so forth.
That's right. Actually, they're not, are they?
No,
Those booths are very.
I. If you want me to go down that road, I will.
No, not
But
really.
because it's, but
Not for the purposes of today. Well, we can certainly do that, but for the purposes of today, Donnie was out there, and it was all about. I mean, for somebody to stand up like he did with the singing, with pushing himself all the time, knowing his limitations, and then dealing with them, and actually dealing with some of the things that I found to be, one of those aha moments that came with him. But his whole thing really was about truly, truly living. And when you see his nephews and they're out there, and even when they picked up doing that show and highlighting his music, they didn't wait terribly long to do that. To get a period
now,
of mourning, but they went at it pretty quick, and it was all very positive that the way they did it.
now it's pretty funny because their mom, who is Donnie's sister, um, is an administrator over at Stony Brook University Hospital. So I'm used to seeing Lori from the hospital setting, from when I go to, go do my testing and all that stuff. But now seeing her as, a friend, and she's been a true friend to me for forever. And, again, it's somebody that understands our world as a disabled person.
Yeah, I think more of us need to. you know, more of us need to and see the full capabilities, that are there. And I've gotten involved, and I'm involved with a couple of other groups with different issues that people are dealing with. And it's not so much as that those issues are holding everybody back. And I'm sure there are quite a few that it is holding them back, but it's that workaround. It's that dealing with it and then going it's not going through it, but achieving something because of it, not in spite of it, but because of it, and that becomes, I think, even more special all around to them. Perhaps I'm not living in that life, so I really wouldn't know. Uh, but without a doubt, just one Donnie story, and then I know you've accomplished some amazing things also that I really wonder if you would have done if you weren't in a wheelchair.
No, I
But
wouldn't
Donnie,
have.
you mentioned too about, with the singing. It was like, how do you sing? You've got the oxygen issue and stuff like that. But he had mentioned to me at one point in time that because it was harder for him to breathe, he actually learned how to breathe or knew how to breathe more efficiently. And that helped him out with his singing in a different manner than, me just trying to sing or you trying to sing. I don't know. You,
Again, I think singing, and I'm not an expert on this, but I think everything comes from the diaphragm,
yeah,
from inside. So him building up his diaphragm was then helping him with his breathing pattern, on how to breathe and how to deal with things. Both singing and just talking to people.
yeah. That was what it was. And yeah, singing does come from the diaphragm. It's breathing down, from within, not singing through your nose, but actually singing through your mouth and singing down below. On that, it even comes up when it comes to, the speakers and stuff like that. How do you keep going? You can't just speak up here. It's got to come from down there. But he had specifically mentioned that at one of his visits, because the doctor that he was speaking to was also a little bit surprised that he sings. And one of the reasons why he was able to sing was because he was breathing and taking in the oxygen in a much more efficient manner because he had to. But because of that, he was able to sing the way he did, and that's
One of the few
was a
times when
surprise.
I went to go visit him at Stony Brook, he always had his guitar with him, and you could hear him just playing along, and you could hear the nurses and everybody being very happy and very, you know, great things. And you always knew it was him. He always had a positive thought in his head. Even when I would call him from time to time, when I was dealing with certain medical issues, I'd pick up the phone and call him, and we would just talk about things in general, within the disabled community. So the three of us, I think, we learned from each other, which was a great thing.
Oh, I was able to see that. Even that one lunch meeting that we had, we four of us, and there was a couple other people that were there too.
Yeah.
Got together. The camaraderie would be one word I would use that really stood out, but the fact that you all just seemed to be very, very much on the same page, and we were talking about something that was different. It wasn't like we were talking about disability laws or anything like that. That everybody was well versed in. We were talking about something different. And yeah, you're all coming from the same either coming from the same place or looking to go to that same place. The
Like I
paths
said,
were all a little bit different, but that
from
attitude was very
from
consistent.
from the three of us, all it was is simply a look like, okay, who's going to handle whatever the topic is, and give their perspective on, what was being said.
Yeah. So
So
look, Doug, I know with Donnie and his nephews have a special that they're going to be doing tonight, and this is the 20th of January, so it'll be on the Facebook page. We'll put the link up for that
yeah,
as we finish on over here. This way, you're able to go with them, and they continue to do different things. And those young men, I'm not going to use the word kids, but those young men have
no,
really,
they've grown up tremendously since I've gotten to know him and the family and everything.
yeah,
And to watch them do what they're doing for their uncle is phenomenal.
yeah. And Donnie always no, I mean that lung disease he had, and it was up on his website, and I put it in the intro over here. He knew that it was taking its toll on him and on his lungs. So I don't think he was ever expecting a long life. Definitely cut way too short. It was
He
a
was only
unique.
he was only supposed to live past 5 years, and I believe it was more than that. So
Yeah,
I only got to know him the last, I'd say, 2.5 years, and I wish we would have met sooner because some of the stuff that we've talked about, we've joked about, we've is just phenomenal. And I know between my wife and I, he is truly missed, as well as Glenn.
yep, do agree. And I spoke to him about this program I was doing. He also said, "Oh, all right, he'll adapt one of his songs over for me too." He didn't even hesitate. He
Money,
just wanted to help use that as
money,
a way to help get his message out.
money grows on trees.
Yeah, Monte Cross entry is absolutely
Yep.
terrific. So then we just got a couple of minutes left over here. Any comments that you'd like to make, either about Donnie or his message, or just from your point of view, is like really what we should be, how we
And
should be addressing people that have like different abilities. Should we even be doing something different or just
not that I'm putting you on the spot and we haven't talked about this, but what I'd like to do is during the spring and summertime, you have that walk group that you used to do. What I'd like to do is be able to bring a wheelchair down with me, an extra wheelchair down with me. And I'd like for you and I to get into our chairs and just go for a quick stroll up and down the boardwalk, just so you can see from a different perspective of what it's like being a person in a wheelchair or a person with a disability. I think honestly, it would open your eyes tremendously, even though your eyes are pretty much open, but it would just give a different angle on how you perceive, people with disabilities.
Yep. Okay, I actually would like to do that.
And then we would come back on the show and we would have a discussion on, what were your thoughts on it, different things like that.
Okay, we can certainly do that. I
Yeah.
can actually record stuff now. We've kind of grown a little bit in that respect, and I think that would be a very interesting thing for. It would be an eye opener for me to see things in a different perspective, but also to help others see, of what it's like to be in somebody else's place. I won't use the word in somebody else's shoes. I know you bust my chops on that one, but you know, but to see it from somebody else's perspective as you're dealing with and going through some of the things that we take for granted.
A real quick story. Glenn and I used to go to baseball games and hockey games And just before the national anthem would start, and this is before the sitting and the standing and so on and so forth would happen in the professional sport. Don would look over to me, and just before the national anthem would start, he goes, "I'll stand up when you stand up." And it was just something between us that we just, and not to get involved in the whole political thing,
No.
but it was just something again for him and I to go, all right, you stand up when I stand up. And after a while, it became a game. And that's, and then people around us would look like, what's going on? And then we would tell them, this is what's going on, and, this is the way we are, and that's it.
This goes into how does somebody else that doesn't know you react to that? And you've
Yeah,
got yourself a great sense of humor over there,
yeah.
which if you're uncomfortable talking to somebody in a wheelchair, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. I've gotten to know you, so it's a little bit different, but
You and I first met when we were doing comedy. And my first thought of going into comedy was, are they laughing at me because I'm funny? Or are they laughing at me because they feel sorry for me? And that was something I had to go.
yeah, it's
And, it made it a lot easier with other comedians getting behind me, saying, you can do this. And that really helped.
hmm, no, it's good. I look it, and you get up there if you give the motivational speeches too. It's
So,
where is are you motivating? Are they there engaged in your story? Are they sympathetic to it? Where is it? It's a good question. It
I
really
can't
is.
hear
The
you,
comedy,
Bray.
no, they will laugh. That was a laugh with, not at. Even when you do the self-effacing humor, you know, that's laughing with, and that kind of thing. An audience that laughs at you, I don't know. Maybe the ballroom scene at 2 o'clock in the morning. That's a different story, but not from what we were doing. Absolutely not. Hey, Doug, I really appreciate you coming on, talking about this. Donnie Vapor had a big impact in your life, my life, many other people's lives, and with the help of his nephews, that message, his attitude will just continue on forever and ever, even though his body did not. So, thank you very much for joining us here today, Doug. Appreciate it.
Brian, I don't know if you can hear me, but I can't hear you.
Okay. Well, we're going to get going now. So, again, thank you so much, and we'll chat soon. So, at some point in time, I think I'd like to take Doug up on his offer and going out there. We go down to for our walk. It was at one of the boardwalks that we were doing that. I'll take you along for that ride since he'll be in a wheelchair and get to see what it's like to live in somebody else's world in that respect. But tonight, I invite you to go live in Donnie Vapor's attitude, if not his world, but at least his attitude, and join his nephews as they pay a tribute to him. And then you'll be able to really see what it's like to for somebody who knows that he's got a problem, knows that he's got a lifelong issue, knows that he probably has a shorter life because of this issue, didn't let him stop him. He went out and he did, well, what I think he did was absolutely special. For somebody with a lung disease to go out there and sing, wow, how ironic is that? You wouldn't expect, would you? Wouldn't expect, but he did. Just keep doing, my friends. So when I say you got to speak well and speak often and live inspired, that comes from Donnie. That wasn't my making, that was his. Living inspired. Live inspired.